Now, the right to privacy is one of the most basic rights enshrined in the South African Constitution. Government has gone a step further to ensure that the private sector complies with this right in as far as consumers and marketing campaigns are concerned. It has introduced the Protection of Personal Information Act number 4 of 2013. The Act, to a large degree, pronounces personal information to be a precious commodity. We're very pleased to be joined now from our Durban studios by Mr. Wayne Mann, Director of Group Risk at The Unlimited. Wayne, a very good morning to you. You come bearing good news. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Alicia. Thank you very much for having me.
Wayne, in the simplest terms, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are fascinated by this thing. The right to privacy is now going a step further and it's getting its own bill. What is POPI?
POPI, Alicia, is, as you point out, the Protection of Personal Information Act. It was passed almost 3 years ago by Parliament, but the vast majority of the Act has yet to commence. And we're anticipating that a commencement date will be promulgated early in the new year. In a nutshell, what POPI seeks to do is to align South Africa's regulatory regime with similar legislation in countries in Europe, in Australia, in the US, and basically governs how a person's personal information needs to be processed or stored. Processed is given a very wide definition in the Act and seeks to ensure that your information, that my information, is securely processed.
We saw a big uproar with the Personal Protection of Information Bill there, Wayne. But why has it caused so much uproar then in the business landscape?
Alicia, from the Unlimited's perspective, we are a direct marketing business. We market primarily financial services products to the underserved segment of the market. And our concern with respect to POPI is that it will constrain the ability for small businesses in particular to market their products cost effectively. We support POPI insofar as it talks to the secure processing of personal information. In the 21st century, obviously, cybercrime is a massive issue. And to that extent, we believe that POPI will have a very, very positive effect on South African businesses. We certainly have been analysing our processes very intensely, and we have made improvements where necessary. However, what POPI is going to... Sorry, Alicia.
Yes, go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead.
Sorry. So what POPI is going to do, however, is to outlaw electronic marketing, which is marketing via, for example, SMS, email, faxing, unless a customer has opted in. Now, you can imagine a small business out there that emails its monthly specials to a 10,000 strong database, and the revenue generated from that marketing activity is sufficient to sustain that business, which potentially employs 3, 4, maybe 5 people. But once POPI comes into effect, that cost-effective form of marketing is unfortunately going to be outlawed. And within the current economic climate, we don't believe that any laws which impact on the sustainability of small businesses in particular should be encouraged. And in fact, we believe that those provisions of POPI should be reviewed.
Wayne, very interesting indeed. But now, do tell us, to what degree then are consumers aware of this POPI? How much information is currently out there so that even the business owners can actually understand what the bill actually seeks to do?
Alicia, we speak to thousands of people every day through both our call centres and our face-to-face marketing channel. And certainly there's a growing awareness of the fact that POPI exists. But Alicia, what makes no sense to us is that consumers are already protected in terms of having the right to demand that direct marketing companies stop marketing to them under the ambit of the Consumer Protection Act. And that's been around since, I believe, 2008, if my memory serves me correctly. So why then the need to introduce these additional protections into an economy that is in desperate need of stimulation? small businesses, Alicia, have long been heralded by government, by academics, as being a key part of the solution to the massive unemployment crisis that we face.
Yeah.
And yet they face one of the highest failure rates in the world.
Yeah.
I believe Minister Davies estimates that the failure rate for small businesses is in the region of 70%.
Yeah, in the first 3
And
years.
therefore our position, correct, and therefore our position is simply that every effort should be made to remove red tape and provide a platform in which small businesses can be successful.
But then, Wayne, wouldn't people argue then that, all the small businesses are always complaining about that very same thing that you just mentioned now, the red tape? How is this POPI now going to enforce the regulation and make sure that it's also making the industry more accessible for the young entrepreneurs to easily access?
One of the interesting things about POPI, Alicia, is that I believe it's the first piece of legislation in South Africa that is principles-based. Mm-hmm. That means that it doesn't prescribe how us as businessmen have to protect a person's personal information, and whether that's our employees or customers, for example. Yeah. But it tells us, and it talks to the outcome that is expected. But it is up to each individual company, dependent and taking their unique circumstances and their field of, or their industry into account, to determine how they go about doing that. So from that perspective, it is certainly a very progressive piece of legislation. But to the extent that it will constrain even further the ability for small businesses, in particular, like, as I say, to market cost effectively, that's where our major concern is. And within a financial services context, financial services are already incredibly heavily regulated. Yeah. And we are now layering an additional compliance cost into an industry that already we have to comply with, 3, 4, 5 different laws. Yeah. And so the compliance costs are escalating. And we have a massive question mark around whether that's the right thing for the country.
It's very interesting, Wayne, because you speak about direct marketing. I'm sure those people that use the SMSs, like we just saw with the elections, everybody was very not impressed by the fact that they just received an SMS from a party that they've never registered with. But now, what are the benefits of POPI, particularly for those small businesses?
Alicia, that's a great question. I think businesses that are able to demonstrate that they process their customers' information securely will be able to establish trusted, credible brands, which I think in the direct marketing industry in particular, which has a stigma attached to it. As you point out, people don't necessarily appreciate receiving unsolicited SMSs or faxes. Through being responsible with a person's data, it will build trust and credibility. Alicia, I think it's incredibly important to make the point that if you look at the expanded definition of unemployment adopted by Stats SA, we are faced currently with an unemployment rate amongst people between the ages of 15 to 24 exceeding 66%, which is an absolutely frightening stat.
Yeah, it's a huge
Now,
number.
direct marketing, and I'm going to use the call center industry as an example. We provide opportunities for kids who come out of school with a matric, with little or no work experience, to come and work in our call centers and have the opportunity through hard work and dedication to eventually own their own businesses. Now, we know that in a sales environments generally are incredibly tough. And a lot of those people choose at some point to leave us. But they leave us with work experience and with life skills, which they can then take on into other areas of the economy. And one thing that we would like to I guess, put out there is that within the context of these people not sitting at home, choosing to come into our call centers to earn a living, to not rely on a social grant, is it really that much of an inconvenience to receive that unsolicited phone call? Because I can guarantee you that that person is probably supporting another 2 or 3 people at home.
very interesting if you put it like that. Wayne, let's wrap this interview up. I mean, is there general awareness? I know I asked you this in the beginning, but I mean, let's talk about where people can get more information if they want to understand poppy better. Because, I mean, I think it would be a bit confusing. There might be a thin margin between this and the Consumer Protection Act as well.
Alicia, you are spot on. Like I said just now, people already have the ability under the CPA to demand that direct marketers stop marketing to them. They can go to the Direct Marketing Association. Many direct marketers are members of that body, and they have a do not contact list which their members have to wash data against. And then the Office of the Information Regulator is in the process of being established. Advocate Pansy Dlakula, who previously headed up the IEC, has been appointed by President Zuma as the information regulator. And so a key function of that body will be consumer awareness and education.
Wayne, thank you so much for talking to us this morning and giving us a clarification on that matter. That was Mr. Wayne Mann, the Director of Group Risk at the Unlimited. And we're talking about that personal information becoming exactly that, personal. We're going to take a